From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. In this podcast, I sit down with Adam McLaughlin, and we talk about offering WordPress websites as a service. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This episode of the SDM Show is sponsored by Stunning Digital Marketing, the agency to handle all your WordPress website security needs. Go on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and find out how we can help you secure your website so you no longer have an issue with backups, being hacked, or your website being compromised. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. Today I'm here with Adam McLaughlin of Build That Agency. How are you today, Adam? Oh, such a pleasure. And I know you're traveling. You're somewhere in the UK right now, if I remember.
Yeah, that's right. My wife and I and our three boys are pet sitting. We're about an hour's drive north of London right now. And we've been here for 3 weeks. And we're going to be over here in Europe for about 6 months, traveling and pet sitting and getting caught in all
that is that sounds like a great vacation, and just be safe. That's all I can say with everything going on in the world right now. So I wanted to get into and talk about a little bit about your background, how you got into this crazy field, which we all know can be insane sometimes, and why you started an agency.
Sure. Well, in 2011, I was working at a factory, and that's not how my brain is wired at all. There was a lot going on in my life, and I needed to make some money, so I went to work at a factory, and then my second son was born, and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to raise my kids telling them they can live the life of their dreams and they should go get it and they should go conquer their goals while I'm, removing this screw, moving a part over and replacing the screw for, 14 hours a day. And so I decided, you know what, I have to start my own agency. I have to do something different. And my little town in Woodstock, Ontario, Canada, had a lot of businesses that didn't have a website. So I started asking why they didn't have a website. And I found out that they didn't want to pay up front a large sum of money for a website and then have to pay later for updates and changes and requirements and what's this hosting thing. And I have to pay for the host every month, but I have to pay for the domain every year. And what are all these things? And so what I decided in 2011 was I would figure out how to take all those costs that they have to have on an ongoing basis, turn it into a monthly service package, and create websites as a service. And so I went out, I quit my job at the factory. I went out and sold 2 websites. Then I went home to figure out how to build a website because I really had no idea, but I saw the need. And that was now 12 years ago. And so here we are. We're now able to travel. My wife and I have been traveling full time since summer of 2018. It's not without its bumps and speed bumps and business has its ups and downs. So I'm not bragging or suggesting I've got it all figured out, but I have figured a few things out, and I've got the life I've dreamt about.
That's a great story. Are you building most of your websites in WordPress, or are you using some other content management system?
Yeah, everything is built in WordPress, and we use Divi as our theme template. So one of my soapboxes, so to speak, is to be sure that you've got consistent systems and processes. It's one of the best ways to be efficient. It's one of the best ways to create websites quickly and to get websites live and start rolling in that monthly service package from that client as soon as possible. And so we use Divi exclusively
Yeah,
with
it's
WordPress
funny.
for all of
I've
our
actually
builds.
moved away from a page builder, so to speak. So I'm kind of in the Gutenberg camp lately for all my builds with Cadence, believe it or not. So I made that move a number of months
Sure.
ago. So, but I think you got to use what works for you. I think most of these page builders all do the same thing. It's a far cry from where it was like 10 years ago. I remember page builders, like if you remember Headway Themes at the time. And interestingly
Yeah.
enough, the Headway Themes site has finally just gone down in the last while, their website. So there's a
Wow.
legacy and a story that didn't end well in the end, to be honest with you. There were all kinds of issues there, but they were miles ahead of their time, and the current generation of page builders are pretty good. So,
Yeah, I mean, we originally started, the first website that I built, you have to factor in a fair amount of time for learning curve, but, probably actually doing the design and putting it all together probably took me 20 to 30 hours. Now, because we serve specific niche, I always forget. Canadian podcast, this must be niche. Industries, because we serve specific industries. We've now got templates that we work from. We can get a website live in 4 hours. So that's a big difference
no
from
question.
20 hours.
And I think, you kind of alluded to that a lot of people in the small town of Woodstock didn't see spending the money. But I think what we need to stress, and I stress it on this podcast, I stress it with clients, is that the only two things you really own are your website and your email marketing list. And everything else that people do, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Instagram, that's kind of space you don't own. And the rules on those can change very quickly and fast.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah.
So, totally.
You're selling websites as a service. How is getting the content out of clients? Because I know from experience, that's usually the bottleneck. It's not the designer. It's not the developer. It's the clients coming up with their content.
Right. Well, I will say that it depends on each industry because, we've got an industry specifically that we work with. And the only thing that we require from the clients is an onboarding form that takes 2 or 3 minutes and their photos of their physical location. And so then what we do is we write their copy for them based on what's required for the template. So for instance, the homepage, they're going to give us, their rates, for instance. And we have a section on the homepage where we talk about, you'll enjoy our fabulous rates. And, those headers are already written. And then we just, we have a short code system that we use that automatically populates things like their address, their area, the closest major city to their business, all those fun things. Basically, we continually find ways to develop how to speed that up. But it really does depend on the industry. Not that some industries are faster or slower getting us content, but the templates that we've built kind of vary by industry. Some need a little bit more, copywriting. Some it's not as important. But yeah, I would say, getting the original stuff from the clients, the actual onboarding form and the photos, that's always our challenge. But we also drive home to the client from the very beginning of our interaction with them. This is either a 2-week process to build your website, or it could be a 2-year process. And it's entirely up to you to decide if it's a 2-week process or a 2-year process. So if it's a 2-week process, it looks like you get everything to us in the next 2 to 3 days. We get started. It takes about a week to build your website based on the template. And then you've got a week to approve it and make sure that all of the information is accurate so we can go live. Mm-hmm. That's what the 2-week process looks like. And so, if you'd like your website live in 2 weeks, we can definitely do that for you. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, that seems, once you get past the content, the rest of it seems to be pretty seamless. In terms of websites as a service, so you handle all the hosting, all the security updates, and everything else to go with it as well?
Yeah, we're basically a managed hosting service. However, because we target specific industries,
Yep.
we've built templates that work for them. So we will build the website for the client. Their client pays $0 up front if they're in one of our targeted industries and we have a template for them. So they pay $0 up front. They lock into a service contract, usually for 12 or 24 months. And that service contract includes everything from their hosting, their domain registration, re-registration, 2 email addresses, which we set up through Google. And it also includes 60 minutes of design time per month as needed. So some clients will call us, once a month because they have a new special to go on their website. That's pretty rare. Most clients will call us like once a year and say, hey, can you update our rates? But it's all rolled into the service package. So what's important for us is for our clients to understand that when you are going to work with us, there are no additional costs. There are no surprise invoices. There's nothing outside of our service package. And we really help them understand as part of our sales process that the service package is, I'm sorry, I lost where I was going because I said process instead of process. See, Robert, being a Canadian, you're rubbing back off on me.
It's
here.
all good.
Yes. No, there it is. We drive home in our sales process that their website should be treated like a utility. It's kind of like your phone bill, your electricity bill, your insurance. It doesn't necessarily cost anything up front, but if you ever walk away, you're walking away from the service that you had, and we keep that content. So just treat it like
and what do you do if a client says they want to go away, but they want to take their content with them? Do you give them an option to do that, or do you just say, no, goodbye?
Yeah, well, we often will do an 18-month. So whatever their service contract is times 18 months, and they can buy it out if they really want to. But the reality is if they're leaving us, they're going to need somebody else to take over for them. And that other person probably doesn't work with our stuff. They probably are going to hire another salesperson who wants to redesign the website as part of taking on their service package as well. So it doesn't happen that often. And really, I want to create an agency that the client is so happy with our service that they really don't have a reason to do that, short of, they sell their property or they sell their business. Or
it's funny. I see a lot of stuff, and I've been doing this a while. And one of the things I'll share with you I've been working on, and I might as well announce it here, is we all know what Linktree is. Linktree is a company that's valued over like $1 billion. And all it does is provide links. Do you know you can build that so easy in any page builder? Like, why do you want to pay for a service that gives you links that you don't get the traffic from?
It's incredible. They found somebody to pay the money.
And, at the time of this record, and it's worth mentioning, the social media world's a little bit in flux because we know our friend Mr. Elon Musk just spent $44 billion yesterday purchasing this little omen called Twitter, which I just find earth-shattering, don't you?
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. I saw a meme today, and it said Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter, but I downloaded the app for free, and so it was. It's interesting to see different.
He's
people's
kind
reactions.
of in the free speech camp, so I don't mind him buying it. I'm a big fan of you let people say what they want to say and let the public and the courts decide where they go, not censor them. I'm so not in the censorship camp, so I'm okay with this. I think so personally, but maybe I'm in a minority right now. I'm not sure.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how it pans out because I think there are a lot of things that could be done with Twitter. One of my friends speculated that, like TikToks, Twitter is going to start paying content creators to be there exclusively. And I thought, well, that's a really interesting concept because then if you want to get content from X creator, you have to be on Twitter. So that's, I just think that the possibilities are really extreme. and so many variables in between there. I'm really interested to see what happens
and
next,
podcasts have already done that. Spotify's got exclusives. Amazon's got exclusives. We all know the exclusivity game in this. And this is why us people who are in the streaming world subscribe to 5 and 10 services and not one, right? Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, we cut our cable so that we could add on all the plus cable subscriptions. And all we did was get ourselves a PVR or a DVR.
Going back to Twitter, and you and I met on Twitter. Another case where I think, people say Twitter doesn't have good relationships. I disagree. It's a great place to build relationships. And one of your Twitter threads, and we were talking about this in a pre-show, you were talking about firing clients, and you commented I had shared the post. And what's your quick summary take on keeping bad clients?
Well, if I was really to break it down, I think what started that thread for me was somebody was bragging about firing a client the day before. And I thought to myself, that's kind of like bragging about how terrible you are at parenting. And it's like if you have to brag about how terrible you are at creating a functional client relationship, it's time to reconsider those processes. So anyway, basically I break it down into 3 steps. The first step is when the client oversteps their bounds, you want to help them see that they overstep their bounds, but accommodate their request as much as possible. So maybe they send you an email on Sunday afternoon, and by Sunday night, they send a follow-up email and ask why the change isn't done. So Monday morning, hey, I just want to remind you that all of our changes happen the next business day. And so moving forward, we'll be sure that we get your changes made the next business day. So that's kind of step 1 is a gentle reminder and accommodate the request if you can. Number 2 is to be really clear and say, hey, this is the second time that you've requested on something on Sunday. I'm happy I was able to get that done for you first thing Monday morning. But moving forward, I just want to be really clear that we do not offer service outside of business days. And so if you need that service, like if you have something urgent that's probably going to be happening every Sunday, maybe there's another agency who can accommodate that. So that's one option, is to point them to another agency. But the other option is to say, hey, we do offer a 7-day-a-week package. It's twice what your current service package is. But if that's a fit for your business, then we would be happy to switch you to that new service package. So the other option is to give them an upgraded service package that better accommodates what they're looking for. And maybe that's, your regular service package is, we do changes within 2 to 3 business days, but they want it within 2 to 3 business hours. Okay, well, I can accommodate that for you, but it means I have to be on call all the time, and that's going to cost an extra X dollars per month. So there's different ways around that. Kind of step 2 is reminding them of what you've agreed to, but also giving them options.
I'd like to stop there on step 2. I'll share with you a story. There was had a client recently who insisted he wanted something done on a Saturday. And we had been through the same where I told him, I generally don't do stuff on a Saturday, but if you want. And my alternative was, if you wanted to do it on a Saturday, I'd be glad to do it for you, but I'm going to charge you triple what I normally charge you. And he kind of hum and hawed. Sure. And I said, well, the choice is yours, because this is the way I'm going to. In his choice, he actually chose to pay triple what he normally does for a job that took 8 hours. So I'll take that, but I gave him an alternative. Sure. So he can't say you're not responsive. So, and
of course. Yeah. And I think it all boils down to how clear are you with your service agreement? Like, if the client doesn't know that you will make changes in 2 to 3 business days, then it's not unfair for them to send you an email on Monday morning and Monday at 4 p.m. ask where the change is, right? Because they just don't know what the expectation is. So my thought is that a lot of times when clients overstep their bounds, it's my fault or my responsibility to check that I was actually clear with the processes. And that's why I really hate people who brag about firing clients. I mean, I shouldn't say I hate the people. I hate the bragging.
And you were going to go on to kind of step 3. Sorry, before we.
Well, step 3 is when you just let them know it's time to move on. And so, and do that as cleanly as possible. And through every interaction in that process, think to yourself, will this help me retain the reputation? My end goal for if a client has to move on is that if the client was asked about their interactions with me, I'd really want them to say, it wasn't a fit for me to work with Adam, but he was a great guy to work with. And so how do you do that through every piece of the process? How do you make that domain transfer as smooth as possible? How do you make the, exporting your WordPress and importing as smooth as possible? How do you do that? Stay regular communication with the new agency, let them know if there's any, premium plugins they're going to need to purchase their subscription to, all those types of things, right? So the entire process works through how do I make this as best as possible so that both the new agency and the client will think of me with the reputation I want them to. And, unfortunately, it's not always possible. And in that thread, if anybody goes digging for it, I kind of talked about the only time I've had to fire a client, and it was.
And there's two things I think help in the process. One, your contract. And I really do. So I actually outline in all my contracts what my post-sales process is. So it's right in the contract. It says, by the way, these are the times we take requests. These are the times how long you wait for a response. That's all right in the contract. I think that's really important. And I actually go so far because I've run into issues where somebody was, with the days of scanned contracts. I actually had a client once accused me of slipping a page into the contract after the fact. That went to step 3 very quickly.
Oh, really? Wow.
But what I do with my clients is I make them initial off every line item in the contract. So they cannot come back to me and say, I didn't read it. Your initials beside it. You're responsible. And it's not about being heavy. It's about making sure that they set themselves up for success. So one of my requirements for my business is if you have a request, sending me a text message doesn't work. And it says right in my contracts, no text message at all. The way you get response out of me is, and my clients know this, I've got a help desk ticketing system. They go open up a ticket. If they don't open up a ticket and they send me an email, I may or may not get to it, depending on the mood I'm in. Usually I'll get to it and send them back an email and say, please open up a ticket at this URL and put this information in. Thank you. But, and they'll argue and say, well, I notified you. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't follow the process that you agreed to. And that's a stickler. Contracts aren't just for the person buying the service. They're also for the person selling the service. The other thing I do with my clients, and I've done for years because I'm too lazy to create a membership portal on my own website, I actually have hacked Google Classroom. And I use Google Classroom, a classroom for each client, and I put all their documents in that classroom. And then I give them access to the classroom with the Gmail account. And then if they need to check their contract, they need to check their terms of service, they need to check anything that they can't find, like stuff we've agreed on, I'll put notes right in there in a document and throw it in the classroom. And then it's all there for them. And then you don't have. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Another use for Google Classroom, which is really an educational product, but really, when you think about it, it's a membership product for schools, right? So that's something I do there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to one of the things you do is help agencies with reoccurring revenue. Isn't this one of the biggest problems that people don't think that way?
I mean, a lot of people think that websites are a product, right? And this is not just agencies and freelancers, but this is clients as well, right? They'll say things like, hey, I need to buy a website, or I need you to have me make a website. And I think there is some effort that goes into shifting this mindset that websites are a service and not a product. And the quickest analogy that I found is that, you've updated your phone last Tuesday to the latest security update, and then all of a sudden there's an emergency update on Thursday. And that's kind of how websites work, because at any point in time, it's no longer a bunch of code. It's no longer a bunch of HTML code that sits on a computer somewhere that people access when they type in your website address. It's now like a piece of software that adapts to different screen sizes and can, pull up the weather depending on the day of the week. And a bunch of other functions, just like other software does. So you have to think of your website like software or an app, and that app needs constant updating, not only from security side and technical side and the software side, but also from you, because your clients want to make sure that your website, your menu pricing is correct, and they want to know that you offer that new brand, or they want to know you have a special going on right now. So we want to make sure that your website is updated. So that's kind of how I talk with clients about that. But for agencies, it's really leaving money on the table to say to agencies, listen, I'm the web expert. You should pay me a premium compared to your cousin, because your cousin can build your website for $500, but I'm not just building a website. I'm giving you a strategy of how to grow your email list through your website. I'm getting more people there. I'm making it easy for people to navigate and find their way around and find what they're looking for and becoming your customer. I'm the website expert. However, as soon as your website goes live, you're on your own. And that just seems like a terrible way to suggest that you're the expert about something and then abandon a client the day that the site goes live and you get paid for it. So we do it right from the start. And this is one of the big things that the people that I mentor, the big shift that they see is we don't, quote a website and then build it. And then the day it goes live, it's not and here's our service package options. No, I build that service package right into the quote, even before the client gets the quote. So my initial consultation with the client, I'll say to them, listen, I've got all the information I need to get you a quote. I'm going to have you a quote by the end of the business day tomorrow. But you're also going to notice that my quote looks a little bit different than you might be expecting, because you're going to see the cost to building a custom website, but you're also going to see our monthly service package. And that's where I run through all the software updates and bits and pieces. I said, so your quote's going to come with the cost to put the website together, and then also the monthly investment to keep it updated and keep it running. So just so you have a heads up ahead of time. So they can then ask any questions they have about that. Then the quote shows up. It's got the, for a custom build, it's got the upfront cost plus their monthly service package. For the templates that we white label for agencies, we don't do an upfront cost. We just do a monthly service package. So they're expecting that right from the beginning as well. And you have to build that into the process. So you're not surprising the client. You're not giving the client an option. You're just telling them, this is how our business works. This is how your website will service you best. Or serve you best. And
I so agree with that philosophy. I know when I do a new build, I usually build 3 months of the service package into the custom build price right off the top, because it gets them started, and then they see, and then I say to them, and right up front as well, and by the way, after the 3 months, here's what your annual or your monthly cost is going to be for that service package. And that's the route I go. And it's the same idea. It's just that clients got to realize that there is a cost of maintaining that site. And let's be honest, no matter how many times I've heard it, the business owner is 9 out of 10 times not going to log into the WordPress dashboard. They're not going to update the plugins no matter how much they swear they are. And then when the site goes down or it breaks, then they're going to be mad at you, the original designer, saying, you did this a year ago and now it's broken and it's your fault.
Yeah, and not only that, when somebody visits their site, your footer is in the designed by space. So they're going to see a broken website with your name on it because the client didn't take care of it. And just all these things are just a snowball reason, and we're not even getting into yet how it benefits us as an agency to have income stability, which is a whole other ball of wax that just, it changes the mindset from, I have to sell a website this month or I don't make any money, to I have to service my clients because I want to keep making the money I'm making.
And I'm going to go into the income stability conversation, because I think that's really important, Adam.
Sure.
I was saying to you before we went to record, I've got, at the time of this record, about 300 sites I maintain just from a security perspective. So for those 300 sites, all I do is I update the website. I keep them secure. I keep backups, typically going back about 3 months or 4 months. I keep dailies. I'm so anal about security. And this is a service that 9 out of 10 clients would never do themselves. I mean, I looked at a site last week, and you're going to laugh. There was 59 plugins, WordPress plugins, 10 being used, and 42 out of date.
Wow.
And we're not talking a month out of date. And by the way, WordPress core, the main version, out of date as well.
Yeah. I mean, that just opens you up to all kinds of security issues. Oh man.
Yeah, and that's my cat. And I said to the business owner, when was the last time you logged into the site? And one of the things the conversation started on is, I don't know how much traffic I'm getting. And I'm like, have you had anybody look at your analytics in the last 6 months? No. and you know where that conversation goes, right? So I start digging. So I think, no matter how much good intention people in the DIY space are going to say, oh, I'm going to do it. My experience has been they're not going to do it. And if you can foster some of those clients into you doing it for them, that's reoccurring revenue every month, which you're billing for.
Yeah. And it's not as much, at least for me, it's not as much about convincing the client to actually do it, but it's, we have plugins we update and they cause a conflict. I mean, to assume that the client is then going to do their own tech support and dig into the Java conflict and whatever else is just, it's not reasonable for somebody who runs a restaurant and is trying to figure out what next Tuesday's lunch special is going to be. And so it is about creating recurring revenue for my business, but it's also about relieving the headache for somebody else's business. And that's really what. And
it's so true. I mean, how do you expect a restaurant owner to realize that this plugin conflicts with this version of PHP? That's a common one right now. And then they look at you and like, I didn't know. I should be able to just push the update button, and
Right. And now they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Because they're stuck between, maybe I have to just leave my website broken, or maybe I have to call a designer and pay a bench fee that I find out I can't afford once everything's said and done. And that's really not where I want to position anybody I would want to be my client. So it really makes sense for both my business and their business that we maintain their website.
I would agree with you. Where else do you see that agencies can do reoccurring revenue better?
Oh, there's so many opportunities. So I had this conversation with somebody I was mentoring last week, I'm going to say. Yeah, I think it was last week. And, she gets so excited about all the possibilities in digital marketing. So when she talks with a client, she says, well, we could do blogging, or we could do an email newsletter, we could do an ebook opt-in, or we could do a coupon opt-in, or we could, start you a podcast, or we could do a Twitter feed, or we could do threads. And there just really is so many opportunities. And she wants to offer all of them to clients, and each of them are a monthly service fee. And, she was ending up giving basically clients, it looks like the menu from, Cheesecake Factory, where you got 17 pages and I can never decide what to eat. And so what happens is she was, getting really excited clients who really wanted to work with her and got really great referrals. And then she would hand them a menu of all these things they could pick and choose to add on, and they couldn't figure out what to add on. And so I've created this system where I've got like a 5-stage funnel. And so the first stage is you have to have a functional website. The second stage is that you need a reason for people to opt into your newsletter, but you can't do the reason for people to opt into your newsletter unless you've got a functional website that's, good on mobile and all those things. Okay, then the next one is that you send them an email newsletter, and then the fourth stage is that you will do SEO, so you might help them with blog content, and then the fifth stage is you might do some retargeting ads on Facebook or Instagram. And so this is kind of a 5-stage funnel, and there's a couple aspects to this, but each one of those stages presents new opportunities for recurring revenue. The problem, I think, with clients, or with how agencies handle clients, I think should be more specific, is sometimes we throw out, here are 17 pages worth of options, rather than saying, okay, before we do anything else, we need to get your website in tip-top shape. We need your website to function completely properly. We need to clean up those 42 unused WordPress plugins. We need to make sure it's mobile responsive. And so I think giving people a clear strategy. So now when somebody comes to you and says, okay, you know what, I really need, this happened to me 3 weeks ago now. Somebody came to me and said, hey, I'd like to do some Facebook ads. And I said to them, well, I didn't use these words, but I essentially said, your website sucks. And so driving people to your website using Facebook ads is going to be basically burning money on Facebook ads. And so let's walk through this 5-stage strategy. So functional website, a reason for people to opt into your email newsletter, an actual email newsletter that you send out regularly, and then we'll move to SEO, and then we'll move to a retargeting strategy. Each of those comes with recurring income. But if I can't get the client's website as the baseline strategy in place, then they're not going to see results. And so I think there are, there's all kinds of opportunities to create recurring revenue through blogging, through social media management, through Facebook ads, and you can outsource a lot of that stuff and still have great profit margins. But I think you need to have a clear strategy for the client that says, listen, some clients might go, week 1 is stage 1, a functional website. Week 2 is stage 2. Week 3 is stage 3. In a month and a half, they're completely running on all 5 of those stages. For another client, it might be 5 months instead of 5 weeks. And for another client, it might be 5 years instead of 5 weeks. But basically what you're doing is you're creating a system and you're saying, listen, this is what it's going to take to get you to where you want to be. How fast do you want to get there? And on each of those stages, you're building recurring revenue. But if you just start with somebody who says, listen, I want to do Facebook ads, and you go, okay, let's buy some Facebook ads, you're really not creating any results for your clients. And as much as that seems like you're building recurring revenue, it's not going to last very long. And then it might as well just.
I would also say, as we talk about all this, and you clean up the website, because I think that's the biggest problem. People like to leap before they get the foundation built. Is to know your numbers, and I mean, use Google Analytics. If you don't like the privacy issues with Google, use a privacy-based analytics package. Don't care. But the bottom line is, without those numbers, how can you actually get to customers those results and optimize? You can't.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you also, like if a client comes to you in 2 years and say, listen, I've got a $3,000 a month service package with you. I've got all 5 stages going, but I don't think I'm actually seeing the return. You can then pull up the analytics and say, okay, this is your cost into Facebook. This is the cost to get them to your website. And this is how many people bought from you. You spent 1,000 of that 3,000 on Facebook, and it turned into $2,500 worth of sales. So we can cut everything off if you want, but you're going to cut off your nose to save your face. And the analytics is the only way you can
guarantee you the small business owner doesn't know their analytics. They're too busy running their business. They have no clue how many visits they had. They had no clue how many visits converted. Most of them, kind of look at their website and say, oh, it's there. And that's a problem too.
Sure. Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, they might not even have Google Analytics installed. It's not that they don't look at it or they don't know how to read it. They don't even have it installed. And so all of that, kind of gets rolled into that first stage for us in the functional website level. Like you said, it's the foundation of the house. We're not going to hang pictures if the foundation isn't poured yet.
Are you also doing some one-on-one coaching with some specific clients as well, Adam?
Yeah, so I do mentoring for a few different groups of people. One is agency owners who want to scale their business with recurring revenue. And this could be an agency owner who's just starting out. This could be an agency owner who's been doing it for a long time but hasn't building recurring revenue, right? They've been selling websites and they've been successful selling the website, but they haven't been selling a service package to go along with it. So that's kind of one category of people that I mentor. And then another category is people who know an industry really, really well, and they want to basically have an agency that services that industry with websites, but they don't want to do any of the design and tech themselves. So they basically want to be a salesperson for their industry. I'm going to mentor them to sell websites, and then we look after
that's an interesting model. Is it doing really well?
Yeah, it is actually. In the last 2 years, so I have a thread coming out today, and it's going to talk about this a little bit more. But in the last 2 years, I had a salesperson who exceeded what I did in business in the first 9 years.
That's not a bad thing.
It seems to be going all right.
Hey, Adam, thanks for jumping on today. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, find out more about what you do or your business, what's the best way?
Well, I would say that the best way to connect with me is on Twitter. And, in my bio, you can find my blog, which is blog.buildthatagency.com. And, but follow along on Twitter and send me a DM. And that's kind of a good place to get all the bits and pieces to track me down and ask questions.
And I would say that's the best place because Adam's threads are a must read and very engaging, and he likes to engage with you. So make the time and get in touch with Adam. Thanks, Adam. Have a great day.
Thanks, Rob.
This episode of the SDM Show is sponsored by Stunning Digital Marketing, the agency to handle all your WordPress website security needs. Go on over to stunningdigitalmarketing.com and find out how we can help you secure your website so you no longer have an issue with backups, being hacked, or your website being compromised. That's stunningdigitalmarketing.com. Very special thank you to Adam for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. Thank you for listening to this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Rob Cairns and Stunning Digital Marketing. For more information about Rob Cairns and Stunning Digital Marketing, go to stunningdigitalmarketing.info. From here, you can connect to us on social media, go to our website, and even go to the podcast to subscribe. This podcast is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Make your business succeed.